recording. Sweet.
We all
Okay.
set?
All set. Okay, welcome to the November 7th board meeting. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have our public input statement by our vice chair.
Evening. The first public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes in which to make a statement. A second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting, if allowed by the board chair. Each speaker will give his or her name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input. We as a community pledge to treat each other as we would wish to be treated. We pledge to seek understanding when there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect. This is a time for comments and/or questions for the board, but please be aware that questions may not be able to be answered at this meeting.
Do we have anybody in public input tonight? To start with. No? Okay. Then we will go to October 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 17th.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion, corrections?
See anything to be corrected. They're fabulous.
Well, I it wasn't, but I was hoping.
Doesn't happen often, so
That's good.
I can.
I actually did think I had one,
Oh,
because I know, I said love teachers. Students love teachers. It
oh, okay. I will fix that.
was a little strong.
Perfect. Got it.
It will be as amended.
It's amended. Yep. Okay, make a motion as amended.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed or abstained?
Can I say amended with love?
That's awesome.
Kidding, I won't do that one.
You can write it any way you want.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have the Spanish trip.
Okay, so for the next three items, the Spanish trip, the pre-K discussion, and the curriculum update, we're going to go down there because we have presentations up here. So just bring if you anything you want for note taking or anything like that. And these documents, these presentations will be shared. Yeah.
Hello, it's not a.
Hey there.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's stuck.
Thank you. Somebody might want to close that laptop because.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Oh, can you shut one down?
I think we can.
I will be.
And we have Rosanna Pass here this evening to give us a little highlight and plan thoughts on the Costa Rica trip.
Hello, my name is Rosanna Paz, and I'm here on behalf of my colleagues Irene Guzman-Rockwell and Morgan Lynch. So the three of us would like your permission to take a group of students to Costa Rica in April. Dates are listed right there. This trip has been taken several times through the years. I don't know the exact, I mean, there's been different, I mean, with COVID in between, I'm gonna guess about 6 times that we have done this. Explorica has been the company that we've worked with, and it's been pretty flexible, pretty accommodating with us, and it's been a pretty good company to work with. So here's some of the highlights that we have. We have an itinerary, and there is some of the things that are included in each one of those days. I'll just let you read quickly. So then we have days 4, 5, and 6. One of the cool things about this trip is the variety of activities that we get to do, and I don't know, Costa Rica is just such a rich, very small and very, very rich country in just about every aspect. I mean, from science and I don't know, all the music and dance that we get to see. The food is another part of it too. So it's really really very, very enriching, very cool place to go to. And then day 7 and 8 are some of the other highlights that we have right there. So it's not very different than the tour that we have taken in years past. So this is what is included in the trip fee that I'll show you in a little bit. So pretty much everything except for personal souvenirs and that kind of thing is what it's not. I mean, all 3 meals and transportation and entrance to places, just about everything. Then we have, so this is how the price breaks down. And we would love a group fee. And so that means only Noble students, just Noble people are in one bus, in one group at all times. And so in the past, we have had in 2023 was our last trip. And there were 23 students with 4 adults there. And it was very nice and smooth considering the size of the group. And so this is how it all breaks down to. And so these are some quotes that our students have said, and at the end as a reflection and coming down with it. So these are some of the ones some things have said. I love that they notice that they're a lot better in Spanish than they thought they would be. So it's a little stressful at first, but it's very, very cool as they relax and get more into the experience. So some of the things that they said, some other quotes. And yeah. So this is a big one for me and for students. We keep stressing, why are your hands right here when all these beautiful things, monkeys and all these nice birds and everything on the side, and don't waste your time on the phone and things. So we stress that a lot, and I'm glad that they do listen to us. A few pictures, and I don't know if you recall, some of our students came and presented to you at the end of our trip last May. So here's a few highlights of our experiences there. And then I'm not sure if you want me to play this video. It's short. It's just quick. It's just very quick. Let me see. I don't know how the sound is gonna be. So there it is. And I think that is, sorry, I'm not gonna play it again. That is my last slide. And, we'll welcome any questions you may have. Yes.
Is there any assistance available for students if they weren't able to come up with that $3,000?
Not that, no, the students, what we did, we offered some fundraisers.
Mhm.
And, many of them were involved and some decided not to. And so it was more the fundraiser that we had on the side. Yeah, though that takes a lot of time though from us, the teachers. So we're planning on saying, meeting with parents and telling them, you are very welcome. We'll support you on the school part, but you run it. You're welcome to run it, kind of thing. Yeah.
It's a great trip. Gabe had a blast.
Yes.
Forever gonna be one of his.
Every time. It is a blast every time. Yes.
Do you have any indication on how many students would want to go this time?
I am not sure, but I'm gonna guess anywhere between about the same 20, 25, though I'm not sure yet. Because they keep asking us, they have been asking us since the beginning of the year, are we, is it? And we are like, I don't know. So it's when we're like kind of like trying to get it going. So hopefully the 20 to 25. Yeah, and we want older students, like from Spanish 2 and up, sophomores and up.
So we do need to vote on this.
Yeah.
Go up there.
You need to approve.
I think we do it right. If you're comfortable, I'll do the vote. I take a motion to approve the trip this year. Costa Rica.
A second.
Any other questions or discussion?
Actually, I do. Is there a restriction on the fundraiser you can do?
Say it again, please.
Is there a restriction on the fundraiser? Or is it up to the child to figure out the fundraiser besides the ones that you may offer?
Well, I mean, way back then, they used to sell candy and, kids would, those are those are restricted, out of the question nowadays. Other things, no, I don't know that there is. Well, I mean, we always run it by our admin. We're always very supportive and no, I don't know if any that they've told us no, but the pieces, the events that parents have come up with are the usual calendar, raffles, those kind of things. So, yeah.
I have a question, I guess maybe more for you, but would it be possible to have some kind of a donation fund set up if members of the community would like to donate money, and then that could help, those students that have trouble with that money?
Great. And so AJ, do you want to talk a little bit about funding? Like if we do have students that have a need?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think the tricky part sometimes with fundraising and the school's level of involvement is we have to be incredibly careful compared to a, sort of general citizen about the types of fundraising with regard to like the school cannot accept Venmo as a school because the accounting practices are very difficult. And a lot of times with fundraising, that is how, like, very rare. I ran over to Hannaford before and they were taking cash only today. And the place was a bit mayhem. So like it was very obvious that, wow. But yes, we will always help and work with a family. We have had students in the past that maybe at athletic contests would set up, a group of students. I would say it's pretty rare for it to be like one student working. And I think that would make me a little uncomfortable. It's better if we can have 4 or 5 students fundraising together, but we've had students at sporting events, students at, maybe a concert, kind of getting the word out, hey, this is happening. So we will always help and work with students to set up, a little booth, work with their parents. How can we make this work? How can we put them in front of the largest possible group of people to hopefully make things happen? I know our world language department does a lot of really cool things also as far as like at our maybe our parent-teacher conferences, for example, they will sell dinners and things, and we'll have parents, students and their parents may help to do the delivery of those during the teacher's short dinner break. So
Workshop days.
yep, the workshop days, they can pre-program. So we'll definitely work with students to make it possible. Obviously understanding that, if you start putting 4 students needing support, like $12,000 becomes a giant sum of money. That is absolutely true.
But could they also just say, like, the parent here, I think you're going to parent donate $100, check.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, the company also has a way, offers a way for each student that is enrolled to send their loved ones for, as a Christmas donation or, some kind of birthday gift or whatever it is. They have a form, a way for family members or friends of the family to donate towards each child's trip.
Yeah, definitely a benefit of like the travel company is they do have that. So students, they'll even provide some paperwork to provide and to be able to hand out, say, hey, here's the unique code that can be used to donate, things like that. So definitely.
That's awesome. Cool.
How does God forbid, but a bad scenario, how does insurance emergencies work in a I don't want a trip like this?
This is, we require students to buy insurance.
Through the company?
So yes.
Is
through
that
the
part of the
company.
cost that they pay?
Exactly. No, I mean, during this, we learned around COVID time, because some of our trips, it was optional, before it was optional, and it was a mess. So after that, we said we have to require it. We have to require it so that if whatever was to happen, or even if a student got sick and could not go, so that gets refunded through the insurance.
So it's not just financial insurance, it's like health, God forbid, something happens. They get
Oh,
hurt.
yes, medical is included as well, yes.
So you're saying we can't have a fund or something.
We can look into that, but we want to be consistent with what we're doing as far as other trips that come up.
Yeah.
So we just don't want it all to go to one place. So we need to look and see what things are scheduled throughout the course of the year to make sure that we're accurate with how that goes. So, yeah, but we can certainly explore that.
I was just gonna say, I almost feel like that would fit into like a DEI reserve that we might have if there was a child that didn't have the anything they did, that would be fall in that. Although I'm not so familiar with ours, but
We will research that. We'll look at all the trips that we have planned and go from there. Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the trip? Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
So we will invite you back after the trip, just to hear from our students.
Absolutely,
Yeah, great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Would you like me to turn it off?
I think.
we're gonna plug it in.
Somebody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
About that.
Okay, so, Dr. Shannon Swider and Principal AJ Dubois is going to present just some exploration. This is just a preview exploration of pre-K. And I know you have it well organized, so I will not say anything more because you've got it on your slides.
Yeah, so really, this is our first kind of discussion with the school board about this. We've obviously been mulling it over for years, feeling like we're a little bit behind our neighboring districts. But just thought tonight would be a great opportunity to explore the idea of pre-K. And that actually got expedited a little bit, and I'll have AJ kind of talk about why we're doing this tonight.
Yes, so with an incredibly quick turnaround, the state of Maine put out a grant proposal for schools looking to either begin or to expand a pre-K program. So the thinking was, I mean, with all state funding, you never know when it's the last time. It might not be the last time, but it very well could be. And obviously, I think everyone is aware that there would be I'm going to call it a significant expense to get a pre-K program off the ground. So in order to explore this further, see what is possible, see what could be, the district did go ahead and we put forward a proposal and a submission for that grant. Obviously, there are no requirements to move forward. We have not yet heard if we're even necessarily going to be offered funds, but it at least allows us to see. And it really was a process to be able to do a lot of planning and thinking and what could be. So with the possibility of the backing of those funds. So the turnaround, that grant was due by the end of October. So as soon as that was becoming submitted, it's like, okay, you know, and I think the other part that's important, these grant funds are required to be spent during the 25-26 school year. So that is the year in which it's required that a program get off the ground. So even if that wasn't necessarily the plan, with submitting that and being like, wow, maybe this could be if there was that funding possibility, it made sense to then come to you and just wanted to make sure to keep the board in the loop about what that could be. Because I think looking 2, 3, 4 years down the line, the process becomes incredibly harder without access to funds to sort of seed money that possibility, if that makes sense.
And they are prioritizing districts who don't have a pre-K right now. It is an expansion grant. So people who already have pre-K can apply to these funds for something, but when they're weighting the application, they are weighting districts who do not currently have any pre-K at all. And we're really one of few who don't.
The next.
Obviously, there are many benefits, both academic, social, emotional, economic, and there's down below community benefits to having a pre-K. I think we've talked about this for years, and kind of the fiscal side of it and the location side have always been barriers. And this opportunity, like AJ was saying, just provided maybe to remove one of those initial barriers. And again, we would hope for all of these things, but then I'll have AJ talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, as you can see within the state of Maine, 86% of the SAUs within the state of Maine have existing pre-K programs. We had listed the actual programs that are in York County. So most all of the surrounding areas have programming currently. And, you know, looking at that again, and not to, as Shannon said, this has been a conversation for many years. We're at that conversation level, but a non-starter is oftentimes the financial side of getting something off the ground. So with that grant being, and as Shannon said, with one of the benefits of folks looking to start a new program receiving some priority, again, potential priority, we don't know at this point what level of priority, what that means. But kind of comparing it with those around us and allowing it to be at least something that could become more of a possibility.
And we know there's a lot of thought and scenarios that go on with thinking about starting up a pre-K, and not just instructionally, right? So transportation, school nutrition, playground, chatting with local childcare agencies, materials, and we've kind of had some in-depth conversations about all of these. And we know that the planning and the funds, if we get these funds, they will help us address all of these areas. Do you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a huge undertaking. There's a lot of components. It in many ways initially feels like, you know, just another kindergarten with slightly younger students, but it is way more than that. It is a really huge undertaking and something that would take a lot of time, a lot of thinking, a lot of collaboration, all of those pieces to be able to get started.
But as the previous slide showed, many long-term benefits, hopefully, even though
Absolutely.
it's a huge undertaking and something we wanted to do for a really long time in the district.
Can I ask if you have any, any idea how many get to be able to start a program?
So I guess I would say it really depends. So, you know, one classroom is potentially you're looking, I think it's something like 12 to 15. Two classrooms, you double that, you know, so,
Because there's so much building going on right now.
yes.
I'm just thinking it could be a lot. I mean, there are gonna be, this is kind of far down the road, but if you're already, can you limit it to 15 this year? or-
Yeah, so we could start slow and then you'd
Yes.
have a lottery application system
Oh, okay.
that most districts have had to start with, and then you kind of slowly grow your program. But if all we could afford and accommodate is one classroom, then that's what we would do.
So, when does the requirement, isn't there gonna be a state requirement?
They've been kind of saying that for a few years.
Yeah, I think what it has been is the funding side of the requirement. So it's hard to make something truly a requirement until there is the funding available to require, you know, like that. There's a level of funding required to do that. And I'm not sure, but on the state subsidy side, if every single community within the state of Maine is required, that's a significant financial investment just on the state subsidy side. So I think it's like, we want people to do it, but we got to be careful not to have every district have every 4-year-old enrolled in a program because that is expensive.
Right, and that, in conversations we've had about this before, the idea of how it impacts local preschools that are doing this work is a dynamic we sort of have to.
Yes, and part of that process would be us inviting all
Yeah.
locals in and having that conversation about collaborating with them. And I think other districts who've done it, they end up leaving the meeting feeling positive, that there's a strong 3-year-old program that can still go on for those private care facilities and, but
I think,
It may be helpful to them.
yeah, I think so. And obviously way more conversations have to be had, but in the few conversations, I think there are pretty extensive waiting lists
Yeah,
at
Yeah.
every turn. So
right, yeah, right.
I think the need will probably always exist,
Yeah.
honestly.
And so for some families, not having access to a pre-K in the public school system is a barrier for them entering employment because sometimes the cost of the private prohibits them from, so that could be beneficial for families as well.
100%.
Yeah, I am a mother to a 5-year-old now in the district. And we actually had to go to South Berwick for pre-K. So not only was it like a disaster transportation wise, because you have to have a parent that's able to drive them. They can't take a bus, things like that. But I also talked to a dozen parents at least who were turned away because it was full. And then they had to go pay. And they have no prioritized thing based on income or based on any other equity factors when it comes to who they choose for South Berwick. So it's literally just who signs up first.
And that's actually going to change because we're chatting with the 35 crew and they're not going to have space for any non, some broker Elliott kids going forward. Right, because
15 students that are.
yeah, we have 15 kiddos there and they will not have those slots actually. So for our kids, we are not providing a level playing field at this point. And we would like to, if I can figure this out. Space is the other issue, right? That's one of our other conversations, and that throughout the state, that's a problem.
Have you considered a certain space? I mean, or are we considering like in the high school and maybe partnering with like an early childhood education program for seniors or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, still almost everything is on the table. I think certainly one advantage we have here at Noble High School is we did house the Head Start program.
Yep.
That was also part of the Sanford SRTC program. We housed culinary and early childhood here for a number of years until their new building was built. So not, whatever, I wouldn't say it's imminent that that relationship could pick back up, obviously because Sanford has theirs, although given the explosion of students being interested in those programs, I would also never say never. But certainly, yeah, I think regardless of where it was, we have a number of students kind of had some opportunities to check in with folks. And I think every preschool that I've sort of talked with someone or seen someone, we have noble students within the last 3 years that are working there. So certainly I would absolutely foresee, even if it wasn't here, let's say there was a program that was housed at the Huzzy School, we would absolutely have seniors, juniors and seniors, whoever it was, going over to help out. So for sure, that would be a part.
So what are your next steps? Are you waiting to find out about the grant?
Yeah, I think. All done.
So we're waiting for the grant notification, and then we would come to the board again and have another conversation about what the board's feelings were.
I think that grant piece will answer some questions, probably add some others, honestly. But that piece will at least bring some parts of this into focus to say, okay, now that we know X, Y, and Z, let's at least explore A, B, and C.
Do you anticipate that the state legislature will clarify what that requirement is going to be? Or is it, no? Because like if they want to, because then they know they're going to have to pay for it. Right. Whereas if they do a grant process, they can get people involved, I think. Right.
And I think that allows them through the grant process to also, the grant was sort of based on number of classrooms. So that's sort of how they are. It appears as though that is how they are awarding money. So I think that is their way of being able to control the numbers, honestly. So they can, okay, we have the capacity to do, I'm completely making this up. I don't know what the total pool of money is, but we have the capacity to do 50 classrooms. We're going to award this much money, knowing that 50 classrooms is going to mean approximately 600 to 700 students. We can provide the subsidy for 600 to 700 students. We're okay, Right. So I think that it puts some parameters that the state can live with. Yeah.
You mentioned that you don't know how long this goes for, but I'm also, I think I heard you that this opportunity was provided to other districts, and that's what they use this to start their pre-K programs. Is that correct?
Yes, previously.
So is there any indication as to has this been going on for the last 10 years, or how
is this 3 or 4 cycles now?
3 years.
I'd say maybe three or four cycles of the grant. I mean, I think the concern always is at some point, and again, I'm not saying that's now, but at some point that money, there will be a last time. Like they probably threatened last times a few times, and then they keep doing a next round. So you start to think well, there'll be another, and there very well might be. But I think the worry is always what if there's not, because this funding is sort of specifically, so it is meant to be to get the program off the ground and up and running. So it's almost that infrastructure piece, not necessarily, I think the hope or the thought is that state subsidy piece will fund it as well as it does, that sort of year over year piece. This is all required to be just within 1 year to get that program up and running. And is a one-time, and I think the other worry is as that number, and again, this could go either way, but I guess my worry is as more and more states and more communities add pre-K, will the grants eventually be more focused on expansion as opposed to new? Because that's where the need shifts to. And so at some point, it's probably easier to have folks grow than to get folks up and running. I would imagine it's less expensive. You can probably fund more for growth than you can starting from scratch. So that's the other thing to think about. Excellent. Yeah, I think more certainly to come. And
They don't give an indication when this is going to be notified.
No.
My guess is the turnaround will be fairly quick because they know that we're in the budgeting process.
Oh, that's true.
So they know that we have to talk about this. But I never know.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. So the next section is really just a reminder about this year's curriculum review. We've mentioned it a couple times in other presentations this year, but I just wanted to remind the board that this year we are doing a grade middle school, grade 6 to 8 math curriculum review. And then also I'll stick with the first bullet for a little bit. The diagram below is kind of just a simplistic model of our curriculum cycle. Typically runs about 5 years. When a content area is up for review, let's call that year 1, and it goes through a formal review process. That process includes, the first step would be really looking at our data. How are our students doing? How is our curriculum impacting our student achievement or not impacting? Looking at some longitudinal data, some also local data, and really digging into strengths and weaknesses of where our students are. The next step in the curriculum review process is typically then to explore best practice for that content area. So we take a few sessions, do some reading together, some discussing what does current research say in this content area is best practice and has the most impact on student learning. So we start with the data, start with the research is saying, kind of think about, well, does our current programming kind of align with those instructional practices that research is telling us? Then from there, we start exploring potential new resources. We always start with looking at programming that is greenlit from EdReports. That's kind of the gold standard for curriculum review. And they review curriculum based on coherence, rigor in content, and am I spacing the third one? It'll come to me, but they evaluate and score all programs on those, and really in the field, it's really the gold standard. You're not going to want to look at a program that is not reviewed by EdReports and does not have the green light in all of those areas. That resource exploration then continues to looking at materials, going out and observing this program in action in other districts, surveying teachers, site visits, presentations from potential programming. So we have our data dig, we have our best practice, then we have our resource exploration, which includes all the things I just mentioned. Then we come back together and kind of digest all of that information as a team and really create some criteria for what our goals are for a curriculum and how they will best meet the needs of our kiddos. And then potentially in that year that it's a formal review, a new program is adopted. So that's year 1. So really we know that to understand the impact of a program, you need years to implement it, and that takes time, usually about 4 years. Implementation science, I think, really says anywhere from 5 to 7 years is what it takes to get really skilled at one thing. But we like to give at least 4 years of full implementation. And as we know, in the past few years, that has been interrupted by COVID. So we have our full implementation during those 4 years. Not only are teachers implementing new programming, they are collecting data, giving assessments, and then around that 5th year, then we review that content area again. So that's just a little quick overview of what in the past has been done. When there is a formal cycle, at the end, there is a presentation to the board. Some of those people who are on the committee come in, we present the process, we present our recommendations, and the board is part of that decision-making process. And I'll get a little bit more into the curriculum process in the next few slides, but
just to stick to 24, 25. So middle school math is going on this year. And then this really isn't a curriculum review, but we were kind of handed an amazing opportunity to participate in a writing pilot for our K-3. I think for many years, teachers across the nation have been just desperate for a new writing program. Writing's definitely been one of those content areas also in the news a lot. With the science of reading, also came the science of writing, and teachers were really feeling the need for a new program. Unfortunately, writing is one of those content areas that organizations like EdReports does not screen. So it's really, you want to make sure you're basing your decisions on data and best practice. And when you don't have those kind of guiding posts, it's hard not to fall into, oh, I like that resource or like this. We really want it rooted in best practice. So at the beginning of the year, a program that we've worked closely with in terms of phonemic awareness instruction had asked if we would want to be part of their efficacy study for their brand new writing program. Heggerty is the name of the program. And we are one of a few districts who are piloting it, and very aligned with the science of writing. I think it has all those components that teachers who love to teach writing love, like author's craft and narrative, but it has that more syntax emphasis as well, and more about, there's a little more structure to it that teachers are like, oh, this is what we've been missing. So we've just begun that, and about 20 teachers across the district are involved in that. We got some very nice free resources and some free professional development. So that was great. And it'll be great to kind of observe this go throughout the year. And we're really doing like a full study. So we have 20 teachers participating, and the rest of the K-3 teachers are continuing their writing instruction as normal, which is our Lucy Calkins, and we will do some comparison with some pre and post writing assessments. So just wanted you to be aware of that, even though it's not really a review, but eventually at the end of the year, we'll do a presentation. Teachers can come in and talk to you about the program, its strengths, its weaknesses, and perhaps the recommendation will be to do a full implementation of it in all the classrooms for K-3. So math and writing for this year. Just of note, when you think about our curriculum review cycle, we stagger our review with the DOEs. So if the DOE is doing social studies and science, let's say this year, we would try and aim for the following year, because you don't want to do a huge curriculum or programmatic review and then have the state make some grand changes. And so we like to be aligned the year after. That doesn't always work, and I'll tell you why in a couple minutes. So just keep that in mind, that we stagger with the DOE. Of note also, the DOE reviews 2 content areas each year. K-5 teachers teach all content areas. There is no way that in 1 year, I'm going to have them review math and ELA, potentially adopt 2 new programs, and the next year have to implement 2 new programs. Very different in middle and high school. We can do that 2 content area. So we stagger. That's why elementary is a little bit more staggered. And then our timeline is really subject to adjustments. So last year, the DOE was reviewing social studies, and they went through their process. They presented their findings, and their findings were not accepted. So now everything's on pause, and they're re-reviewing social studies right now, which like backtracks math and ELA, which was supposed to start. So you see, it is a living document. Like, we have to adjust to what's going on in our district, and we have to adjust to what happens at the state level. But just to keep in mind, we tend to like to stagger. We keep in mind our impact to K-5, and that there's always adjustments if needed. This isn't like lockstone law. Like, we need to use our common sense and professional judgment. And then another note was, all of this was going swimmingly until COVID. So 2017 and 18, this was I was at Hussey as an assistant principal at that time. The district reviewed ELA, science and social studies for K-5. The following year, math was reviewed, K-12. 1920, the first half of the year, health and PE, science, social studies. So all the big content areas had just been reviewed, and then COVID occurred. So everything stopped. Obviously, we went remote, then we were hybrid, and then even the year after, a lot of absences. We still had some remote learning going on with small pockets of kiddos. So it's not like there wasn't curriculum work going on, it just shifted because we had to now think about, I'll read some of it. Teachers within these PLCs dedicated substantial effort to addressing learning loss, compacting curriculum to cover essential content, and developing targeted supports and interventions to meet diverse student needs in the challenging new educational landscape. At the state level, things paused, their cycle got off. 22-23, there wasn't much going on. Last year, we were waiting for the science and social studies. So, and then that was delayed. So it's just to show like this threw everything off. And it's not that curriculum work wasn't going on. It just wasn't huge programmatic reviews that we would formally present to the board because it was impossible to do a lot of that work during that time. And then it took time for districts and teachers and the state to get back on track. This year is kind of the first go at that with math and writing. That was really it, sorry. Just a reminder about what was, so you will, we will keep you updated. There will be presentations. And this year, I have what potentially is supposed to be up for review next year, but again, I need to wait and see what happens at the state, and then we kind of adjust as needed.
So they haven't clarified where they're at this point?
Well, it just, with social studies last year and science, this year they were supposed to start ELA and math, and now they're redoing social studies right now. So it's just everything's backlogged, and then.
Do you know why?
What they proposed was not accepted by the committee. So then they decided to reopen it to be reviewed again.
What's involved with the state curriculum review process?
They send out an invitation for teachers, administrators, their own folks to be part of a process. They go through a similar process to what I just described internally, but then they need to present to the legislature. And that's as far as I
And
know.
people in the legislature are making a decision about what that curriculum is going to be like.
Their proposed changes, yes.
Am I hearing you correctly that maybe those changes are like political?
In social studies, one would assume that those probably.
Are there hearings? Are people allowed to attend?
I haven't really been involved in that. I don't know. I could definitely follow up and find out more about their process, but. Okay. Senator Rafferty is
Yes,
on that committee.
I'll reach out to him.
Yes.
Or when's that conference?
Next Thursday.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask them.
But we're very excited about the middle school math review, so keep that in mind during budget season. Yeah.
So the, because good question, bring up next week. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So the Department of Education, are they recommending certain curriculum or are they
No.
recommending?
They do a standards review. They do a standards review, not particular curriculum, just standards.
So when we start, the state doing curriculum, they're really just talking about standards.
Yes. So when we review a curriculum, we just want to make sure that the standards in that curriculum align with the state's.
Has there been significant changes in standards since Common Core in 2012? I mean, that was the last big one that I recall.
No, but the last round of social studies suggestions were, and science had some pushback as well, but no, math and ELA are pretty much the same Common Core state standards. Maine merged a little bit of the reading and writing standards, but if you really look at them, it's Common Core states. When you're basically using the Common Core state standards, just stick to the Common Core state standards, but they create the main learning results, which I think they try to simplify them. And then sometimes that complicates things, especially when the state of Maine has instructional standards and assessment standards. So our instructional standards are the main learning results, although we are held accountable to our assessment standards, which are the Common Core state standards. So it's a little wonky.
Convoluted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they're almost making it more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah.
So one thing I thought was really cool is Berwick is doing like, the module learning for parents online, where you can go onto a Zoom call and learn your kids' math curriculum.
Oh, yeah. It's one of our
And
math
so I
coaches
did
did it.
that recently,
Yeah.
and it was so awesome to see, like, I was blown away by the things that they were teaching, like, first graders for math and things like, I was like, this is crazy. But in a good way. And, so I didn't know if that was being offered at Lebanon or North Berwick elementary schools, or if they're all using the same program and those parents could hop onto that.
They're all using the same program, and that instructional coach works closely with the one who works in North Berwick and Lebanon. So there is plan to do another parent webinar.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if like we were gonna just extend, because I think like, I don't know if I don't think other districts got like the invite to the first.
Yeah,
one,
she
but they
did.
will, they want to give it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I will forward the board members, just a link to the review process for the social studies, because it's on the DOE website, and it talks about why they chose not to,
Okay.
why they're resubmitting. It's vague, but I think you can probably read it. And then public comment on there too, that you can click on.
Awesome.
So I'll send that to you.
Just, as far as like curriculum programs,
Mhm.
right, that we might be looking at in our review.
Yeah.
So we look at curriculum programs.
Yeah. Yes. So
And those programs are, I don't know of a program that's written for Maine, typically written for California and Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So like, I'm wondering why we wait for Maine Department of Education. If the curriculum programs are not really written for Maine standards and learning results, like, why don't we just set our cycle and just like stick with it? And, you know, as the state goes through its changes, obviously we're gonna adjust, like, the programs aren't written to the Maine, you know what I mean? They're not written to the Maine.
well, essentially they are, because they're a Common Core.
I agree, they're Common Core, right? They're being written for Common Core, which is like, if they're going to major changes in Common Core, those people writing the programs that we would look at that are being scored by ed reports, they make those adjustments. So like, I'm just wondering, how important is it that we tether ourselves to the Maine Department of Education if we honestly, if we're looking at
Because we're by law supposed to be following the main learning results. So I think just waiting to see their most recent, they really, they're not drastic changes, but I think it would be a violation, but we're held accountable to the main learning results.
Yeah, and I understand that, and we're held accountable to the Maine learning
Yeah.
results, right? But the programs that we look at, that ed reports is recommending, evaluating, and recommending, have nothing to do with the Maine learning results.
Right.
Well, they do, because they're the Common Core.
We're throwing out words here, right?
Yeah.
We actually were held accountable to the
Yeah.
main learning results,
Yeah.
which are, they fall
Yeah.
under the Common Core, right? Common Core encompasses the main learning results allegedly, right? Yeah, I'm just making that assumption.
Right. But I think we're flip-flopping it, like we stagger and then we look, then it's that content areas the next year. So we already know if there were drastic changes, let's say, you know, we would already know that, and we would know that the curriculums that we need to look for need to also take into account X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? Because we follow their lead.
Yeah, I guess I understand that, and if they made a change in the legislature, we would just adjust here, wouldn't we? I mean, it's not like we would dump the program that we purchased.
Right.
The programs would cover all of that stuff, and if there's adjustment, if we have to supplement creatively, I mean, there's not, like, the last shift was Common Core. We haven't had a big shift since then, so I'm just trying to figure out why we tether ourselves to the Maine Department of Education on this topic. Why don't we just
We get our money.
control?
Well, and I think there's also different kind of reviews, right? Like they can alter their standards a little bit and we will do a gap analysis. That doesn't mean we're going to buy a new program.
Right.
right?
Right.
But there are some programs that we use for many years and we want to review and really see, is it meeting the needs of our learners? So I think there's like two different things that we're talking about. One, you're going to do a gap analysis and look at standards, and you're going to continue on and make adjustments as needed.
Right.
And then there are some content areas where, let's say, middle school math. And you're like, you know what, this curriculum, and actually we are doing this before them. So they're reviewing math in 2 years, but at this point, I'm like, I think we need to change up what's going on. So I think we do make our own calls sometimes, and then other times we follow.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Building area, and where you're right? Right on the door. Right on the door. Into the. I'll look back in. Oh, wait, the rock, I never mind. No.
Speak for yourself there.
Not giving it.
We're not that far apart.
I know, I'm not.
That was the case. It's not a number anyway, it's your state of mind.
That's true.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shannon, do you have an low number in here?
There.
Thank you, Rachel.
Just out of
Glasses. The other.
the remote.
Oh,
I considered calling on those.
they, I guess they preserve the season, right? Yeah.
So this has been so warm.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
It chills up.
All right, thank you.
Should know. Now to number 7.
Okay, number 7 is norms, and last Friday, right as we were getting ready to send out the agenda, we had a request to add norms to the agenda, just to talk about board norms, how things are going, and Peg, do you want to start because you did put this on?
Yeah, so, and I think it's a combination of email and just looking at the way, I mean, this meeting has been lovely, but I often feel like we come in here and there's a gotcha thing going on that turns into board members being lectured. I know I've been told a couple times I'm not doing my job if I don't do X, Y, or Z that somebody else is doing. And emails that say they're very disappointed in people. And I think is not helpful. In my own work, I try to go by the assume positive intent rule until you have evidence to the contrary. And I just feel like we keep saying we're doing this, but we're not doing it. And I feel like we've had lawyers come in multiple times and talk about how we should work together, support each other, at least have that support each other's decision-making. I don't think that's happening. I think email use is getting a little frightening to me in terms of appropriate, not appropriate use of it, as the lawyers have told us. So I'd hate to ask an attorney to come back. I feel like we're kind of wasting that money. Like we have them come, they really go through a clear explanation of things, and then it completely falls apart and we're not really doing any of that. So I guess my question is, I honestly feel like we should take this off here if we're not doing it, just so that it doesn't, I mean, it's just kind of phony to say it's here, but we don't do that. Or we really do maybe want to try doing the norms checking at the end of a meeting and during a meeting. I don't know.
Well, it's almost like at the beginning of a meeting, have a different person be responsible for norm checking throughout the meeting.
Right, we used to do that. Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, we,
Because I will say, there's been some stuff email that should have been done in a meeting.
right.
You shouldn't be debating and whatever was going on in email.
Right,
That discussion needs to be in public.
right.
So, I don't have a problem with, we have somebody be the norms checker and
Yeah, and if people are willing to have that conversation, and that's my concern is
the attorneys come in a couple times now. I feel like every time they send somebody, they sort of repeat the same thing and we aren't doing it. So that's sort of my question is, do we want to do it? Are we in agreement that we want to have board norms? I mean, if we read through these, no, we deal respectfully with each other. We stand for our decisions. Our work will be time-bound, focused, valuable, and evidence-based, which I think Allison has brought up before. We'll work to continuously model professional collaboration. We'll rely and trust each other. That's not the sense that I'm getting at this board. I come in here kind of with this dread of what's the gotcha going to be tonight. And I don't want to feel that way. And I don't think it needs to be that way. I think you can ask questions respectfully. I think people are more than willing to answer questions respectfully. We have policies and processes in place for addressing things that go to the board chair. And in the past, I feel like if we've honored those things, board meetings have not been uncomfortable.
Could you just talk a little bit about what a norms checker is for those who may not know?
Sure. So it is really somebody who will call out, like, this does not meet our norms, our agreed upon norms. And you can point to which one is being violated. And then, I mean, you can do it as it's happening. Sometimes in meetings that are going relatively smoothly, it's at the end. We would do it at the end. The norms checker would report out at the end, whether there were moments where it felt like norms were not being respected. But I personally feel like now, like, these are sort of not being respected, like they're kind of not here.
Can I just add, so going back to what I think I've talked about a lot, being a new member on the board, is not getting like, I got like the How to Be a Good School Board Member book, and I got the Hammond, information and all that, and that was all really good information. But I wasn't given necessarily like our board's norm when it comes to email. So I think maybe knowing like, okay, I should only be communicating with you if I have a new idea. And then it's up to you to share that information or not with the board and to add to the agenda. So there should never, from what it seems like to me, there should never be a time when one of us is CCing everyone or have even emailing everyone in a chain. So can that just be something that going forward, we just make a decision on? Like, we email you.
Right.
If you don't, and then the lawyer said to us, if you decide you don't want to and we still want it addressed, then we can bring it up in other during our meeting. So as long as everyone agrees to that, I feel like that's totally, case closed on the email issue, right?
Right. Well, and I will just say, don't email me the day of the meeting and want to add something to the agenda, because I had 3 of those today.
Can I? I'm just.
But if you know, right.
Agenda, not this one.
And this for 2 weeks. I just want to clarify, if I remember correctly, what the lawyer said to us is that if we email Nancy and Nancy said no, we could bring it up during the topic, not the discussion, but the topic of cell phones at the board table, for example, and we vote if we're going to discuss it, right? That's what the lawyer said. We don't just then say like, okay, we're going to talk about this during right now because it wasn't added. Okay.
But you can still,
add that clarifying piece.
always have the opportunity
Yes.
to bring it to the board.
Yes.
That is always an option, but bringing it in an email is like obviously never going to be conducive.
And it should go to Nancy and to me.
Oh,
Because we set the agenda.
so it goes to
Together.
both of you.
We set the agenda together.
See, I did. Yeah, thank you.
I think just one of the things, I mean, I know we're talking about a recent email exchange, and my concern is that we have had some examples in the past where an email was sent and then action was taken before a discussion at the board meeting. And so we have to be really cognizant that that does not happen. And because otherwise we're not doing what we say we're doing. If we're going to say that only emails go to Nancy and Audra, and any response, any email to the board, there's no action taken until we meet to discuss, and if action is gonna be taken, great. I think that's important. But that's my concern, is there have been actions taken after emails and we never discussed it as a board. And so, if we can agree to that, then that makes complete sense.
Josh, could you be specific about?
I knew you were going to ask a specific question. That's one of the things I wanted to, again, yeah. I'd have to really spend some time thinking about it. I know there was one because I was like, oh. And so when the suggestion was made this time, I was like,
if this is like last time, then we're not actually able to discuss it publicly and at least make just for everyone to share their thoughts and feelings on things and then make a decision and move forward. I mean, as a school board, and we have very differing opinions on things, and there are going to be times where it's contentious. It doesn't need to be. It's not a, hey, I don't like anyone on this board. I have I know I have strong opinions. Shoot, my mother says I have strong opinions, so I do. And I think it's important to express those, right? And then we move forward. I'm in agreement with everything that we're saying. And again, Kate, that's a great question, and I will have to spend time to really think about it and that 1-2 times, whatever it was, and bring it to you.
Okay.
I think one thing that I'd like to clarify though, too, is to tease this out a little bit. And if we say like something comes in as a potential item for the agenda, and if Nancy and I talk and it's something that's not necessarily applicable for the next meeting and it comes up in other business, we still may need another meeting before, like, talking about it on the spot may not be the most appropriate time because there may be some prep work that needs to happen around it. So I just wanted to put that pretty clearly.
But hopefully, like, we would get that communication prior to the meeting, like, hey, we got your message, we are gonna add it, but we need to flesh it out a little
Yes.
more. So if you could just hold off on mentioning it, that'd be great, and then we can all be,
You go. I was just gonna say the flip side. I remember like a while ago, in my kiddo's school email, there was the math moment. And I don't recall the timing, but I do not feel like it was near a board meeting. And I thought it was so cool and I wanted you guys all to see that. So like, are we saying that we should not share those? Like, and I feel the existing situation was similar. It was the link to the videos. It was the link to the videos of what she was doing. Yeah, that was shared in the newsletter.
That's not asking to be put on the agenda.
Well, or having news, that's questionable.
But do you think maybe that should still go through the chair? Just so that you can choose to share it? I feel like it should.
Yeah, that's true.
And like maybe just no like reply, like just hit.
That's fair.
Thanks
or whatever. Yeah. So my concern is, I agree with you, Josh, that we all have different opinions and they're strong opinions or we wouldn't likely be here. What bothers me when it starts to get judgmental, when we're saying things like, you all know that, or you're not doing your job if, or I'm really disappointed in you. I mean, for me personally, that is personal and it doesn't belong. That I think is a violation of the norms and it goes beyond just having a conversation about ideas.
Mm-hmm. And we can add to that list eye rolling, sighing, things like that. Those are the same. They're just as demeaning, right? Derogatory. It's the same thing. To Lauren, the point you brought up, I think is a good and maybe a distinction. I'm asking, right? I think the distinction between those two things is one was created by our staff, our employees, right? That video was created by district staff. The second item was not, to my knowledge. And I think that's the difference, right? If we're sharing something created by our employees, if it's great and it's created by our employees, I would love to see it. Thank you for sharing, right? I think it's different when it's not.
So I guess my response to that would be that it was still about the great work the employees of this district are doing, and to find, I feel like unless the email is transparent, I don't want to make this comment. I found it surprising as a board member that another board member would want to go out of their way to put a really positive article in a negative light. And I feel like that does not follow norms. And it's also, I'm getting emotional about this. It's also really challenging to go places and have people question me of like, what's going to be the big surprise thing tonight? Like, what's going to happen at the board meeting? I'm like, this is not what it was when I started. Like, what is happening? Like, I feel like over the last 2 years, it's just gotten, and again, this has been a fabulous meeting. Like, I love these meetings. But it's definitely been different this year, a little bit last year, and definitely going into this year at meetings than it has been in the past. And it's definitely challenging when it's trickling into the community and we're setting an example. And it's like other people are seeing this and noticing our behavior, whether we feel it's happening or not. it's definitely out there. So I think that I do think we need to professional collaboration. Yes. I don't even want to say it should be getting contentious. It's professional collaboration. We're all professionals, and yes, we're passionate and, I just got emotional about that. But I think we just need to be really careful that we are the example for the district. And that is what we're doing. And we need to behave and set the example, treat others how we want to be treated, presume positive intentions. That we want to see trickle down into our schools and into our community. It's my 2 cents.
What was initially my concern is that I'm hearing things from people who do watch these videos. Some of the things that are the accusations or the little gotchas that come up aren't resolved at this table on that video. And so people are there's conspiracy theories blooming about what kinds of things are you guys doing that we're not allowed to hear about, that you talk about in executive session and never come back with a resolution. And that undermines the work that our teachers are doing, and it concerns me.
I do think that we're just in an environment where we're going to have those conspiracy theories, and the more we can educate our communities about what work we actually do here, the better. So it goes even further than just how we interact with each other on the board, but the overt transparency of our board is a goal that I definitely have for us all.
Okay, so to summarize.
Go for it.
Contact me if you have an issue that you think needs to come before the board. I will discuss with Audra. And I will get back to you one way or the other. Again, it won't probably be the next immediate meeting, because it depends today.
Right.
It'll be probably 2 weeks or whatever, for your request or whatever, but I will get back to you.
Yes, but if you could see me as well. Yes, just so that we. Yes, make sure that we are reading it and responding in a timely fashion.
And do we want to have a norm checker? We can do that. We can draw a name out of the hat every week.
Let's just do it for the time being, just until we feel all on the same page again.
Yeah, is it possible to have a little colored piece of paper? Because it's hard to interrupt someone and it adds, but a piece of paper has no.
Red paper, stop sign?
Yeah, because you're in the middle of you're a little passionate about something.
Yes, I will loan my gavel up tonight. How's that? So we go through that plan?
To that point, we really shouldn't be talking over each other. If we're following Robert's rules, no one should be saying anything unless you're called on. And that has not been happening.
Yeah, been trying. I thought people have been raising their hand and doing pretty well, for the most part.
Well, I think one of the things that's difficult in this setup is that you can't really always see people's hands, because in the old library, you could we were much more.
We're facing each other.
So there's a piece of this that's just problematic in that way, that we'll just have to try to be more mindful, I guess, for that. Because I see that happening. I really, to be honest with you, we are a reflection of the world right now, and the board's everybody's on a varying place, right? And that's okay. So I think it's important that you guys are having this conversation. We are here for kids. That is the bottom line for us, is that we're here for the students of the district and for the taxpayers, but really it's about the kids. So the reflection that we give to the world and to our students is really important. And I think for our parents who are out there, and for just our regular everyday folks, some people watch this for entertainment purposes, which I would like to have that not be. The fact that people are thinking about what am I going to watch today? Oh, I'm going to watch the SAD 60 school board meetings. I'd like them to stick to 21. I'd like them to stick to a different. That's really how I'm feeling about it. And I feel like it's important for us to move forward. And we're not really part of this, but we are 100% on point all the time with this. And we want you to be able to get your thoughts and ideas out there, whether they agree with one another or not. That's okay, but respectfully and in a way that that we can respond. One of the things that I will say tonight is The level of materials that we've been asked to provide has gotten us to a place of literally just drowning. So we're gonna push back a little bit on requesting for information. It's not that we don't want to provide information. We're gonna do the best we can. But we just, going forward in the budget season that's in front of us, we really need to be able to like really hone in on what's happening right now in the buildings and being able to provide you guys as much information here. And as much historic stuff I can get you, we will do, but I think you just understand, we are not trying to hide things by not providing. We are trying to do our jobs as well as do the other things that as board members you're asking for. There's nothing wrong with wanting information. It's just the question of, can we manage it all given everything that's happening? On Tuesday, which we'll talk about on other business, our whole world stopped for 3 hours while we had a ridiculous thing happen. But our kids, it was real for those high school students. It was real for the teachers. It was real for us in the central office, who, by the way, are the first, like, hello, pull the shades, because we're right there. And that was a real moment for me to be like, why are we doing this? And I feel like we need to come together in this group, in this community. I wish that our other folks were here tonight that typically have showed up, because this is really a moment that we need to move forward. So I'll get off my soapbox, but
And
that
I
was
just
me.
want to add, and correct me if I've got the
Mhm.
statistics wrong. For all of those contracts,
Mhm.
did I get this right? It took 3 staff members 8 hours to get all of that stuff together.
It took 8 staff members 20 hours.
Oh, well, I was
And
up.
then there was an additional request that took an additional 2 hours with 3 staff members.
So I mean, that's a lot.
Well, and you don't know that when you're asking for stuff. It seems
Right.
like it should be like the drop of a hat, but it's just not like that with the staff that we have working in the CO, and the 900 to 1,000 like people that we deal with on a daily basis of just people that we own full-time, part-time, all that kind of stuff. It's just a lot. And the other part that's hard about that is that it feels like, it feels like you're questioning what we are. I don't even know how to say this. I know you want information, and I guess it makes sense, but there's that whole doubt behind it when it comes through. So that's a struggle that maybe that's just us needing to get thicker skins, and we can do that. But it's one of those things that, on top of the amount of work that it does put upon us, it's just like the question behind it all the time. What do you not trust? And that's a struggle. Sorry.
Nancy. It's challenge with hand holding, or hand raising. Would it be appropriate moving forward for those requests to go to Nancy and to present to Sue? No.
Like, I'm done with it.
But instead of like going straight to central office of like, we want this information, like, right, I want to know whatever. Where do we get these tablecloths? Instead of me making you guys find that information, for Nancy to say, no, I don't feel that's appropriate for them to look at. You can ask an other if everyone else agrees. And if we have a majority vote that we want to know where we get these tablecloths from, then we do it. If we don't, so like the contracts, for example, like if that was not a majority vote to pull all the contracts, like, and also to know that that was going to take that amount of time, is that something that we can discuss as a board and decide like, we don't feel that we need this, or like, yep, that's actually a fabulous idea. We would love to see this, and like kind of have a majority agreement on? I don't know.
I like that idea. I think yeah, I can do that. I found out. Does
So-
everybody else wants?
I'm back here.
So sorry. Is it not, you speaking Nancy or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, there's 2 things. So first, I think Sue, if it can help, to me, decide to define, it's not distrust for me. It's not distrust. I can only speak for myself. What it is for me is return on investment. We spend over $50 million every year
Excuse me,
Yep.
could you speak up to?
Absolutely, sorry.
Thank you.
We spend over $50 million. I mean, this current year, right, is over $50 million. It's return on investment. And so my questions have been almost exclusively around data assessment. It's not totally exclusively, I admit, there have been other things, but for the most part, it's been around data, academics, around our data, and in our financials. Because that's return on investment, right? And so, not distrusting, it's like we're spending a lot. That's a lot of money. $50 million is a lot of money, right? And we're getting certain results, right? And when I look at that, I'm like, either this has to come down or this has to come up, but I'm looking at return on investment. That's how I look at it. All right. That's just me, how I look at it. That's how I looked at it as an administrator. Every decision I made, it was return on investment. What are we getting out of it? And what's the investment? And as we add things, this number keeps going up. Does this rise to the same occasion? Like, can we see that happening? And so, for me, that's a lot of those things. So I hope that helps define where my questions come from. Lauren, to your question about, I think it's important if we're talking about academics and we're talking about financials, I think it's important that we ask, and specifically, and that it is provided, right? And then it can be time, right? I know the contract discussion goes all the way back to July, if I'm not mistaken. So it didn't have to be the 20 hours in whenever, right? October. It doesn't have. It could have been in July. And to Ali's point, maybe we were unclear, right, with the exact process to Nancy. And it'd be nice to just say, okay, yeah, it's on our radar. This is when we'll have it, right? This is our goal. We're going to have it to you. And so, because there are times there's going to be big information, right, and provided. I know other things are, I think of data when it comes to student data reports. I remember as a principal, like, it was download. Like, that's how much time it took. Download, send. That's 2 minutes. Yeah. So, and one of my was the raw data, because I didn't want anyone else to take time to go. If you give it to me, I'll do it and I'll go through it. So there's that cognizant part of it. And so I hope that speaks to those two things in a clear way.
I don't think the contracts were talked about, but personally, I had no idea the level of the request that was actually being asked and the amount of information that was being asked, because when I saw that email, I was blown away by our central office, number one, with all that they put together. But number two, kind of went back to the law book a little bit and looked at our roles, and if we were overstepping and doing a little bit of micromanaging. I didn't realize that was the request. I thought it was just an example of each set of contracts. I had no idea that was requested. I would build each contract a copy of the actual signed that was above and beyond what I was ever expecting to see.
Go ahead.
So I think there's the adage of hour of preparation saves 8 hours of effort. So maybe this goes back to kind of having more defined progress reports for ourselves and what we're going to be requesting every year, so that we know, okay, at the beginning of the year, Josh is going to want that report. So now that's built into our system. We have it as an automatic, download and send type system. But it goes back to having more planning going on with everything.
I want to go back to what Sue said, because I think it's very important. Remember that the world did stop for our students, our teachers, our first responders on Tuesday morning. And we need to remember what we're here for. We're here for our children's successful education. Money is an issue. I will not deny that. But the primary reason we're here is for the children of this district. And going back to what started this discussion about norms, I think that needs to be front and center of every discussion that takes part at this table. And Sue, I want to say, Audra, I want to say to the teachers in the district who are here in the audience, I want to say thank you for your bravery and for keeping the students calm and for having a plan in place that protected every individual.
100%. It's appreciated. That was a scary day.
Thank you. Anyone else on this topic? Questions on process? Okay.
So I have a question about.
Okay.
So I.
We'll CC you.
I understand the request email piece. The other piece was, I think that's good. I think just if it's going to be burdensome, if it's going to be long, that it could take time. And that we're not trying to withhold information, but we're also trying to do so in a thoughtful manner for our staff and for the positions that people are in and what they have to do every single day.
And I would just add, during budget season, please don't. You're gonna get so much paper, you're not gonna know what to do with it. And, you know, if you have questions when we're doing budget, you know, feel free to ask, but we're gonna get these books, and I'm not kidding, and they're this big.
They're heavy.
So,
So to that point though, Audra, I think if you and Nancy get a request like the one Lauren's talking about, I think it's a fair response to say, this is going to cost this much time for people who have really important work on their desk that they're going to have to set aside in order to meet this request. And is it, I think to Lauren's point, is it something I mean, I think having that assessment in a response rather than you feeling like you just have to do it, I think offers the board then a chance to do, I think what Lauren had said, bring it back and say, okay, if we're going to be taking X number of time, not necessarily just during budget, maybe during audit or what payroll, I think it's warrants a conversation that may bring up the point that you brought up, that we're crossing the line into micromanagement. It's not really our role.
But what, like, eventually want to move past this. I'm one of those who eventually want to move past this. But I don't think it's I want to encourage us to realize that we're not, we can't operate in silos, right? And even in our discussions, right? That what we're discussing in getting copies of contracts started because, I mean, as a board, we approved a contract we didn't even see. That's where it started. We got to recognize that happened. And so if that's the start and then the conversation, and if we want clarity, great. But let's have clarity until we get to action, whether it's on the board. I agree, come talk to it. But what it was is at least to me, it felt like slow walking, slightly avoiding, instead of just like, hey, let's confront and get a decision and figure out what we really need here and move on. And that's what so I don't, it's not about, I'm trying to share, like, I understand that was a lot of work, and I truly do. And I truly understand how we can see and say, you know, I don't know that was good use of time. 100%. I understand, truly understand that. But there were factors that went into that request, and there were a number of factors that resulted in that result. And we have to at least own that too. Like, that has to be part of it too.
Josh, every person sitting here, with the exception of our new board members, had an opportunity to participate with the board and with the union on those contracts and what that final contract was going to do, what the steps were, what the pay grades were. Every person had an opportunity to take part in those discussions. Lauren and I did.
I don't think that's what you're talking about, is it?
Correct. Thank you.
Talking about
I
ours.
think we're trying to figure out what contract.
Talking about ours, yeah.
So when that came forward in June, there was not, I was,
No, so
Right.
Audra was out and we just I didn't have a contract in front of us. It was a last minute thing where Audra was not able to be here.
Oh,
You guys approved the contract.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
you'd seen the contract.
Try not to call
pass.
anyone else.
Right.
That's fine.
I appreciate it.
No, it was a complete emergency and.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
And you guys had seen the contract.
an appropriate thing for not seeing one to respond by asking to see all. Like, I go back to like kids in a classroom, right? Like one kid's misbehaving, but the whole class has to miss recess. Like, no, like let's focus on like the one, like the actual situation at hand is my opinion. Call on Nancy. Call on Nancy.
Nancy.
I asked for the contracts. I made a mistake. I apologize to your staff. The length of time it took, I thought they were on computers like everything else is. Zip, zip, zip. I read every one of them. I've highlighted the information in them I wanted to see. I appreciate the work you put into it. I am sorry it took so much. Can we drop it now with a smile so that we stick to the?
All of it, start fresh.
I think that's probably a good idea.
I mean, it was an honest request, which I have a right to the material, assuming it's under FOA or whatever that is, and I wanted it. I wanted to get a handle on what was going on. It was a legitimate request. I had no idea the amount of work it was going to take. And I would say if I ever make a mistake like that again, please call me on the phone and tell me, can we hold off on this? Because I'm a reasonable person. But it was not. I mean, this is just talk about being bullied. Can we stop now? Thank you.
Are we done?
I hope so.
I just want to clarify though,
That's
this
troubling
was,
for me.
yeah, this was not anything against you, and I don't want you to walk away from this meeting feeling that way. This was one example of a lot of things being asked and just kind of figuring out a process for it. Like it was a perfect storm. So please don't feel that we're like, gosh, Nancy, like I will not feel that way at all.
Drop it. I promise I will not feel bad.
I couldn't go home tonight not saying that.
Look, I don't want you to feel bad, so we'll just let it go.
Okay. Now we're going to go to number 8. Draft goals from 2 remaining strategic plan priorities.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So just to recap, in the beginning of the year, we talked about board goals and conversation about the strategic plan and how the strategic plan had a lot of input from our community members, from administrators, from staff. And did we want to use those goals? The conversation came to have more specificity other than just those overarching priorities. So at that point, we were able to draft some goals to share with you. And these were the two remaining of the 4 areas.Ese were the 2. The last time we discussed this, there was some conversation about the process and how we should move forward. We were already working on this. And at that last meeting, when we were discussing it, the directive was, let's finish up with the 4 areas and move ahead, whatever move ahead means. But that to me was the go ahead to finish how we started, which was take the priorities from the strategic plan, put some indicators in a SMART goal, ask for SMART goal, measurable goals, and present them as drafts. So again, this is a draft and this is a conversation. This is a conversation. And again, this is a draft, and how you want to move ahead, we will support. But this is finishing that task or that charge. So we have community engagement and we have school safety. Those are the 2 remaining areas. And I'll give you a moment to look at them.
You want to go through these item by item or just have, if people have questions?
We can go through them item by item and then we just talk about, I think what we're looking for is direction on next steps. Is it that you want to is it that you want further discussion at the board level about what you're looking for? So I guess that's it. You know, we can go through some of these highlighted areas and then you can have a discussion about how you want to move ahead and we will move in that direction. So, so community engagement was through a wide range of communication techniques, meaningful among students, parents, and community/business partners to enhance diverse learning opportunities for all students, staff, and community members. Our goal is to be the heart of the Noble community. So while the strategic plan goes to 2030, these goals were for June of 25. So hosting 3 community-based drop-in sessions with the purpose of providing ongoing school district information to community members without students in the district. That has been something that we have been challenged with. That is still a priority for us. Inviting 5th grade students to visit Sanford Regional Technical Center to broaden the awareness of different learning opportunities for high school students. Sanford is opening up the ability for us to be able to have our students attend a field trip in 5th grade to walk through the whole technical center, to walk in and see the different programs available.
Can I ask a question? Could parents be included in that?
I can see, and I don't see why we couldn't, just from the conversations that I've had with Stanford. Increasing the monthly newsletter views by 5% from December of this year, like 24 to June of 25, by placing hard copies and QR codes in 5 accessible spots throughout the district towns. So right now, the views for this November for Sunday night were 2,826. So increasing that by 5% is what we're looking for.
Where would the places be?
Well, we're looking at the school, the libraries, post offices.
Physical copies
Yeah,
for that.
physical.
And the QR
Yes,
codes. Yeah.
yeah. Continuing to highlight recent partnerships with Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and Noble students via the district and school-based newsletters. We just started a pretty good partnership with them, and we just want to keep that in the forefront and just continue to celebrate and accentuate some of the work that we're doing there. And then the last one is to gather baseline numbers on community participation and attendance for the district art show, concerts, and learning fairs. We know we have strong parent participation in all of that. But we want to, as we become the heart of the Noble community, we want to see where we're untapped, where we could be outreaching more to our community members to invite them into the schools and see what our schools are doing.
I really love the third point here and what you're saying about getting more into the community. In my work in marketing and promotions, we always say you need to meet people where they are with information. And that's kind of what I really enjoy doing. So when it comes to libraries, places where people already are, sporting events, things like that, the number one thing I hear from parents is they just feel disconnected and people just don't have the luxury of time to go looking for information right now. So I love that. This is great. Thank you.
Could we add something in here about the ongoing development of the website?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think Mr. Donnet has done an amazing job updating the site, but I know that the work is ongoing.
Yes, and some of it is, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I hear that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the use of QR codes too, because you could probably have somebody at athletic events, PTO events that simply has hey, you want to know more about what's going on? Scan the QR code, takes them right to the place on the website where board meeting, whatever you want to.
And I think this is awesome because the follow-up is on June of 2025, we go and look and we check these marks. It's easy.
Well, and there's, 5 goals, but they're very diverse and don't just affect one person doing 5, you know what I mean? It's different, it's among different groups and things.
So then school safety.
Can I ask?
Yes, sorry, Nancy.
The first bullet, hosting 3 community-based drop-in sessions. How do you notify the community now about those?
That's been our struggle.
Yeah.
Was really-
Not well.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had them.
We haven't because it's been like,
Oh,
so.
okay, good.
We were starting to work through that a little bit this summer and last year, and we just hadn't been able to tap the community members that we needed to tap. We talked about going to certain locations and certain towns and so that's the work we need to continue to do. Because
Because if we
Trouble
don't
with that.
have, I mean, we don't have the email addresses.
Right.
We can't send
Right.
out an email
Right.
now and.
Right.
And there are people way around.
Yes, yes. And the only thing that truly goes out from the district is that annual report that goes out with the budget information and the whole year in review.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, meeting our community members where they are. And that's been the challenge.
So where are they in Lebanon or North Berwick?
I was gonna say, we don't have any senior senators.
Hubs, like community hubs.
Here we do, Town Mobile. Town Mobile.
Well, that's not, you're not wrong.
Post trip, yeah, those are the places.
Like,
men.
They won't tell their wives. You know what's happening out there? But that's one, and train, I've never been into trains ever in my life, I'm sure. But trains, another place with a poster, post office. I mean, all of those places are hit. Right.
Because we've had some success in gathering the community in for doing this work. And so we have had
Specific invitations though, so it's not like we're not
Right.
in general.
those people
population.
would be great people to reach out farther.
Yes.
And all of the towns have really active Facebook pages
Right.
where you can post. It's not necessarily, not necessarily valuable, but it's there. Yeah, and then I would say through our town halls.
Right.
Access them for the connections that they have.
Should have had it in there today, because that's when taxes were due.
There you go.
Oh, like.
All right, so then the next one is school safety. Creating a safe school experience requires a comprehensive approach that addresses both the physical environment as well as the physical and social emotional well-being of all. So this is a huge, topic, and we could hit it from many different angles. But what we tried to do is look at the physical safety, the emergency preparedness, and then the well-being of our students and our staff. So for physical safety, we said by February of 25, we would conduct a security assessment at first entry facilitated by school resource officers Kelker and Fogg. The emergency preparedness is by December of 24 to ensure 100% of the staff received initial and/or ongoing training and practice on the Crisis Go notification system through the practice drills and face-to-face training. And then the third one is social emotional well-being. By the end of the 24-25 school year, elementary schools will have full implementation of a comprehensive PBIS framework, including the Swiss tracking system. The Noble Middle School will conduct a pre and post survey of the benefits and of the wellness block, which was new this year, and analyze those results and plan for accordingly. And Noble High School will continue to examine the main integrated health survey, the youth health survey responses with York County cohorts to continue to building supportive resources to address our student challenges.
This one is super important to me. It
Yes.
was during the
Yes.
community event. And so, because I do worry about the mental health of our young students in particular. I hear about it all the time from parents who are just struggling with the idea that their kindergarten students are going in and doing these. What to do if there's a shooter in the building. It's really just beyond my ability to comprehend. But in the past, we've had building administrators come in and review their safety protocols and talk to us about what they need, what they'd like, or what could be better. Can we do that? I know there's certain information we can't have.
So general information we could provide.
Right.
Like what schools have done in the past.
Right.
We've said, we're going through our evacuation procedures for a fire drill. That means that this system goes off and then they head out.
Right.
But we don't want to give too specific information about where they're going.
Right.
Or where the reunification sites are,
Right.
or how how we're securing the building and where like there are levels that we
Right.
can't talk about, but in general, we can do that.
Right.
That's why, like, the safety plan piece is different than those procedural pieces.
Right. So so then as part of that, I'd love to hear from them how they feel like that part, that mental well-being of these kids is being addressed and how those kids feel.
When was our last security audit? Do you know?
So a couple different things. Last year, we started the audit of the first thing, which was the security assessment of the first entry. So that was done at the high school, MHA, North Berwick Elementary School. And in that process, our officers, our school resource officers were trained to do so. So this summer, was it this summer, AJ, or was it last summer that we had first responders here running a drill all day, going through procedures and protocols here?
This past summer,
Yeah.
we do that every summer. And as often as possible, because I think it's just always best practice. I want as many first responders, and I think it's best practice to have access and knowledge of our building.
Yep, they did the same thing at the middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so then when we have, for example, when we do a lockdown, we will invite our police officers into the buildings, elementary, all the way up through, to make sure, or to give any recommendations that they may have at that time. So we have those kinds of audits. We also work with Maine School Safety, I'm not going to get it right. Art Cleaves is in charge of that, and he works with us, providing us the most best practices in school safety and crisis management. And so we're constantly looking at all that.
Okay. The reason I ask is because at the state conference I went to, I specifically took the seminar of is your school's crisis protocol proactive or reactive? And during that, they made they really stressed that you should push for an advanced security audit by a private company for your school. It's expensive. It's incredibly thorough. They immerse themselves in your school, and it's more than just your local enforcement. It's someone that's trained specifically on this. So have we done a cursory, intermediate, or advanced audit with a private security group?
We have done the security assessment. First entry was done by a private.
Yeah.
That was.
Is that cursory, intermediate, or advanced? Do you know?
I want to say it was intermediate.
Yeah.
Intermediate.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge undertaking. It took like half a day in each of the buildings, went through every entry point, every exit point, looking at the offices, watching students at dismissal, at arrival, at lunch, at, like more vulnerable times.
And that was Art Cleaves?
No, that was, we have his name. He left right after he did that, but we got our report
And when was that done?
last year.
Last year. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so these are goals. Yes.
These are just draft suggestions. Yeah.
Okay, so these are well and good. Are we gonna do the academic piece? Because I went back and I reviewed Shannon's charts, and the math was appalling. So I'm really more concerned about the academic piece, and the reading wasn't really all that great either.
So, yeah, we have 4 areas on the strategic plan, and each of those areas have topics. And there is the one very academic focused, and that may have also been a meeting that you weren't at, because we did that right in September.
I have it here someplace, but I don't know where it is.
We can share that out again.
And that would be great.
Because we definitely hit the academics. These 2 areas were not academic focused. We'll share that out
Yeah,
again.
with pathways to success and high
Yes.
quality resources. Yeah, those are the ones, yeah, we did those.
So what we tried to do is mirror the plan when it talked about the academics, it talked about community involvement, it talked about school safety, it talked about the other what's the other one? I had three. Yeah. community
No, it's
engagement.
pathways to
Community
success
engagement.
and,
Yeah.
you just said it.
Yes,
Sorry.
okay.
I fear that this gets undersold and this week is a good example of the disruption that it causes, terror that it causes for parents and families and children. So I don't know, I'm assuming there's all kinds of debriefing that goes on after these and what's learned from it.
So,
yeah.
do you mind if I give AJ a minute to just speak to the high school process?
Would love that.
Okay. I was going to put that under superintendent, but because of the superintendent's update, but because we're here. And I'm going to start by just saying that it was an amazing response, not only from our first responders, but from our staff, from our administrators. The students were unbelievable. You know, watching them walk out of the building, they were just unbelievable. Seeing them, you know, even exiting from the classrooms to the main exits, to their cars, to the buses, and families were just unbelievable. We put out a couple communications and one just said, we really would, we're really not hoping, but we just said, we'd like our students to be on the bus because there was so, we didn't want so much attention with cars here and gridlock. We wanted to get everybody home. And it was just smooth. Yeah.
Speaking with the parents, because I was actually at my store and there was quite a few of the parents literally in the store when it happened. And obviously my child is at this high school. And there was a lot of confusion for parents about, should I call my child? Which is a huge issue because of noise, right? So if you call a child and they're supposed to be in a lockdown room and their phone's not on silent, you've now identified someone to where they are. So that was a point that I really think we could attack with community engagement, going over the protocol of like if you hear there is a lockdown, do not contact your student. You will be contacted by the school. And then secondly, pickup protocol. So should I go rush over? I think we've communicated at this point. They know that you should not. But just reiterating that to parents, part of that reconciliation piece of once, the event has occurred, pushing up more of that. And really the thing that made me nervous was the phones in the classrooms, which I think was the result of a couple substitute teachers who hadn't been fully trained, where kids were actually making calls out of the classroom during the lockdown. So the substitutes, I think, is just a missed opportunity for us.
Yeah. So, again, there was a little information I promised to go quick, but at 10:04 a.m. on Tuesday, I received a call from Lieutenant Pelkey at North Berwick, and he just asked me, he had said that as quick as you can get the building in lockdown, please do so. So immediately I had actually radioed Dr. Ivy right behind me, and we were in lockdown. He was about 45 seconds to a minute away from the building. When he came through the door, our building was already in lockdown and secure. So it was really amazing how fast that was able to happen. And then I think the other piece that was amazing to see, and you hope to never have to see it, but I'm not 100% sure if it was a York County unit or if it's specifically Sanford's tactical team, but they were working at the range out in Sanford, so they were very close by. They may have been in South Sanford that day. They arrived in what felt like a couple of minutes. A tremendous number of people sort of flying into our schoolyard, prepared, ready to help, ready to jump in. And I think, obviously a lot of communication at that point happens between law officers to law enforcement, but one of the things that was eye-opening and I think positive that I felt was we were very much included. So Lieutenant Pelkey being on the scene was sort of the inside of the building. We were making sure everything was all set, and he was very communicative. That all went incredibly well. And then, I think one of the difficult parts of this situation is it's always the hardest when when you have one of these swatting or hoax calls and you're on the first side of receiving them. That's incredibly difficult, so I guess as ended up throughout the morning, more and more calls went through, but at 10 a.m. we were absolutely in the first wave. I think the other thing that really added to the situation is we we have had, and again, on the later end, sometimes calls come in to either one of our local law enforcement agencies, or we have had calls in the past come into the school. I think one thing that was very unique about this situation is North Berwick Police was contacted, and again, through dispatch, but the call initially went into the main Veterans Crisis Line. So that level of removed is rare and not something that has been typical. So I think that absolutely added that, okay, like, what is happening? Because that call, they heard from a real person who was the intake worker who believed they had spoken to someone who had shared that they were on our campus. So what worked out incredibly well is with us having that tactical team on campus, they were able to secure the perimeter of our campus within probably 10 to 15 minutes. And they got all the way out beyond, we have that access road that encircles the campus. They were able to get out on the other side of that road and be able to provide some details about that things seemed to be safe. Also at that time, now we're 20, 25 minutes removed from that initial call coming in. Our local law enforcement was starting to hear that some other folks had been receiving that call. So that is step one in getting a little bit of like, okay. And I think what we ended up finding out later is that this event that happened across the state was really probably more to disrupt election than it was to disrupt schools. We were just sort of that, we were in session, therefore, we were the location other than, a lot of places that may have been the polling place. So once we were able to get the entire perimeter of the campus into a secure, like we sort of had ourselves a secure bubble, we were able to make the decision. And at that point, given sort of the magnitude of the situation that, continuing the school day was not unfortunately going to be a viable option. Like it had been very intense. Like our building was encircled with folks. So we were able to initially, our first move was to get our students who drove off of our campus. And one of the things I will say that I am beyond impressed with, again, there's a few, there always will be a few situations. But when we dismissed the students that drive, we had fewer than 20 students who also left their classroom to come down, So I guess when we first made that move, it's hard to know exactly who is driving. So we did this tiered dismissal in waves. And by allowing our students who drive to get off of the campus, that allowed us room to bring on the parents, and again, I don't pretend to know exactly what it looked like, but I believe there was a pretty long line out of Route 9 and also off of Beach Ridge of folks just kind of parked and waiting, wanting to be close by. We were at that point able to bring those folks onto the campus, stage all of those folks that were parking, change, if you will, or double our bubble, to allow the buses to come in, because the other concern, we're in the unique situation that our transportation is housed on our campus. So not only do bus drivers need to get their bus, they need to get their personal vehicle onto the campus to get into their school bus to come over and get us. And because we were dismissing directly, it wasn't a situation that we could just shuttle, if we had been, if the decision had been made to just move our students to another location, it wouldn't have mattered what bus they got on. But in our district, it makes a pretty big difference if you get on the downtown North Berwick bus or if you get on the Lebanon bus. Like that's a big difference in what your ride home looks like. So we needed the right buses in the right place. And students and staff throughout the entire process were amazing that we were able to dismiss by school bus, dismiss the students who were coming out. They came out and it was important to us. We wanted to keep the numbers relatively small coming out of the building. So we could maintain that bubble. We had sort of that security personnel at that point in time. And then we were able to dismiss our students to go in cars with families, because we've been able to stage them in the other lot And I'm really, again, I'm not gonna say there wasn't gridlock because I think there were a number of cars that tried to come on campus and were parked. But we avoided the situation of ever having the cars moving in both directions, which I think was really important. We did not have people trying to pull into spots while student drivers are trying to pull out, because sometimes they're not the best. But we were able to get them off of campus, create that space. So logistically from that, I know like Lieutenant Pelkey was like, I don't know how we moved 1,200 people in essentially what was a little under an hour, given the circumstances. Again, staff were incredible, students were incredible, but you don't necessarily see the impact. You know, that night I had spoken with one of our transportation folks, and they had reached out on behalf of our bus drivers being like, hey, is there anyone at the school that they can connect with tomorrow? Because, you know, to my knowledge, no one in MS 8060 has ever pulled their bus into the front loop circle with what I would say is approaching 24 armed personnel, standing there sort of. So it's an intense situation.
And they were not small arms.
They were not
well armed. Yeah, it was scary.
Yes.
So yeah, for staff and students though, I mean, how do we support students? Are there any students that we know of that went potentially home alone? That had nobody at home and?
Yeah, I mean, we had a chance, and again, I can't say with certainty yay or nay, because I think for some people that is their norm.
Yeah,
You know, that
right,
is,
it would be.
their every day, they wouldn't have necessarily thought different. But one of the parts that was really nice was, and again, it was brief, it wasn't a 2-minute conversation with each student, but being able to have folks, like we were able to have our school counselors out front, members of our admin team, just to check in with students, and we had some students like, I don't know if I should get on the bus. And so we're like, okay, don't. You're welcome to stay here. You can, you know, like, so those conversations, because there are kiddos that are like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
You know, so just being able to check in as they went, but yeah.
I think also for the parents, because I think the schools handled this like exceptionally well. And my kid felt very safe the whole time, so thank you. Now I'm gonna join you. But I will just say for parents who are using Facebook and you are friends with children on Facebook, you need to watch what you're saying during events like this. There were kids who were terrified because they were hearing conjecture and rumors and they were looking at it on their phone and their parents were texting it to them. First of all, I mean, don't be friends with children on Facebook. Don't let your children have a Facebook until they're 18, please. But if they have to, please don't post rumors and conjecture during a crisis. Please.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that is the communication within the building, and I mean, the rock stars of all rock stars in this situation was our admin team, who was able to take on various parts and help with the dismissal. Ms. Ivy was providing really regular updates to students because we felt, and staff, because we felt that was important, that, you know, everything is fine. We are safe. We're now working on dismissal. The problem we run into, and you know, folks have talked about, like, when others out there are providing alternative information, it creates doubt, you know.
Panic, absolutely.
100% honest, 100% transparent, but it's hard to know. You know, I'm sure there were kids, if they're getting messages from someone to the contrary, that are like, well, are they actually telling us, or are they just trying to keep us calm? No, we were actually telling you. But it creates doubt, and that is really, really hard, for sure.
So Alice makes a good point, just on parent information about what to not to do and what not to do, adding that piece of sending your child updates from outside sources may not be helpful, and it may just create a higher level of panic, and they should trust that the school is giving them the information that they need.
Mm-hmm. Or the opposite, to hopefully never, but to have the message out that it's a hoax and it's not, and to have the level of, you know,
Right,
the alert, the high alert not be
taken seriously.
right. Yeah. But I think grown-ups can be good grown-ups and have the good, I mean, we had police are blowing past our house. How I know everything's handled so fast because of the timeline of who I saw it go by. And my son said like, oh, what's going on? Because they were remote for the vote. And so I looked online and saw it on the scanner page and had the real converse. You know what I mean? We weren't sharing it or anything, but I think like, yeah, like kids can know if you feel they're mature enough that like having the appropriate, sharing it appropriately.
Yeah, and obviously, the way the information eventually coming forward with it being a hoax, that is a game changer. But even prior to that, it was really visible to see, like I'm out front of the building and like you could visually see the level of supports that we had, you know, so we had personnel all the way out, like I said, around our perimeter circle. We had another wave who were on the sidewalks in front of the building. All of our doors are locked. Within that, all of our pods, all of our classrooms are locked. So like, it was comforting, you know, like as I'm out front there, you know, like, okay, we have 2 levels right now in front of me. And I know that we have 3 levels behind me that are secure. So like that does, like you're able in that moment to actually see, again, not that you want to have to.
Right.
But it is really sort of in your face in that moment of like, okay, here's what we've got.
And it is a trauma for all of them, for everybody.
Yeah, it's hard. And, you know, we have, you know, some folks, whether that is students and some staff who may have, you know, who say we're at Sanford High School last year. And I think, you know, it's incredibly hard because now it's like,
yeah,
now it's
the trigger.
A part of it's an annual occurrence, not what school would look like.
Right.
So AJ, you debrief with the staff in the afternoon and then administrative team debriefed and then you debrief with the North Berwick Police
We sat
Department.
down with North Berwick and went through some best practices and some pieces that, you know, absolutely work, but why did they work? Will they always work? Things of that nature. Because again, the thing that becomes abundantly clear is you are relying on a lot of people to help and provide help and make sure, you know, does the fire truck get to the end of Route 9 before 50 cars get to the end of Route 9? Like,
Probably not.
you know, again, despite my best effort, I am not getting to Route 9 before.
Yeah.
Route 9. So, you know, is that happening? And it absolutely did, and it all worked as it was supposed to work. So we had that debrief. We have a debrief scheduled. I have one scheduled tomorrow with our transportation department just to fully go over and get like, we were able to sort of in the moment talk about what their experiences were as a staff, but not necessarily what some of the challenges they faced were. So yeah, so all of those parts and pieces are happening. Yes.
I'm sure you're aware of it, but the kids were texting kids or texting. So there was a lot of misinformation coming out of the classroom going out into the public. I don't know if you can, when you do your debriefings with the kids, can you maybe, yeah, you can't stop it, but you might be able to slow it down a little bit.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
I know.
Maybe like a phones off policy during lockdown.
Everybody's
Should there just be a phone off policy during lockdown?
So the reality of it is that you can have a policy.
Yeah.
But there's
what?
no way in
You know
God's
what's-
green earth that a kid is not gonna have their phone on when they're scared, like they're scared.
They're gonna call them.
That's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Their child.
Yeah, and I'm not,
Yeah.
it's just,
I agree, you know, I wish.
yeah,
Yeah,
really too, but
Fully transparent, you know, on the other end. My daughter is an SRTC student. She's a junior in high school. SRTC was not in session because they are a polling place. I don't even remember what time it is, honestly. She texted me because she received 2 phone calls at our house from MSAD 60 sharing information and just said, Dad, things don't seem good at your school. It's all okay.
Yeah.
So like, I just think you're not going to be able to control, like,
No.
you know, it took 2 seconds, all is good. But that, like, I hadn't responded. I don't know what her
Yeah.
reaction
Yeah.
was.
Right, right.
You know, and I
That's
want that
valuable.
for all families. too. You know,
Yes.
like they all deserve that. So.
no, I think what was going on was that they were finding out before anybody even knew what had happened. My granddaughter was out that day, so she was getting messages being sent to her during the actual, you know, the first minutes of it. And it's like, whoa, you know, that was, but then I thought, wow, that's too bad. I was just listening. I didn't give much thought at the time, but listening to you now, it's like, wow, there's a leak that it's too bad we can't put some way of kind of stopping it. I mean, nobody was doing anything wrong. It's
No,
just,
but it's not helpful.
it was complicating things a little bit, so.
Yes, well, and I think you get a fair amount of student, and again, the students knocked it out of the park. But you get a fair amount of nervous energy.
Yes.
And in teenagers, that can come out in a variety of
I
ways.
think
So some of that is like, you
yeah.
know, if I'm joking about this, you know, laughing is better than crying, if you.
I think she was, I think this young lady was just plain scared.
Sure.
She was just reaching out for somebody,
Yeah.
kind of.
Absolutely. And there's so, I mean, I don't even begin to know all the ways that they communicate and connect with each other in a second. So.
Yeah, it's just, it was.
Well, hopefully we don't have to go through another one.
Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Something we could do for the parents.
Thanks.
I'm looking most, do we have anything for adoption? So what is the pleasure of the board? Do you want to go with the ones, we did make some suggestions on the draft. Do you want to go with these? Do you want to go in a different direction?
Very hard to get.
What do we want to do?
I think it would be helpful to see all 5 of them in their final form and see if we've covered everything.
Okay.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Nancy?
When we looked at the pathways to success, as I recall, we were going to table it and to bring them back up and discuss them some more because there was some questions about what kind of a goal, which goal, or how we wanted to evaluate them. So can we revisit that?
Well, I had written down that maybe add a different test.
The NWEA.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need, just.
Yeah, we'll bring it
question would
back.
be, Can we
Can we bring it back?
If we see them all together, we'll know
Yes.
what's missing.
Yes.
If there's anything missing.
Nancy? I would like to see in the school safety, something about like a parent benchmark where they are like either forced to participate or acknowledge that they received the information about what they need to be doing during a crisis. Something where like, every single parent in our school district read, received and understood what their role should be when a crisis happens. Maybe it just
I
gets
don't know
sent
how you're
down.
gonna do that.
I mean, I sign 1 million papers a day that are mandatory for my kids, and I would be more than willing to sign that paper at the beginning of every school year.
I think the question though is everyone could be different. I don't know if there's one. I think there's a few things that are universal, like you said, like you shouldn't be on Facebook and sending that sort of thing. Not rushing to the school until you're told what to do. Those things are.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The universal norms that you expect from the parents at your school.
So right now, AJ, what do parents sign? Do they sign anything regarding the student handbook?
They do.
Okay, so is that something maybe we can talk?
I did read the student handbook and it doesn't,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we insert some
doesn't
information
give
in there.
information, yeah.
Like we don't.
So I think
Yeah.
either add to that, so that
Yeah.
somehow that the parents acknowledge it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think. Probably want to minimize the number of. The absolute. Nuts, you know what I mean? I mean, big lead of the maybes because, and I 100% agree, there were times where. It would be great if no one had a phone, but then it was great for that kiddo to know when they were like, I don't know if I'm going or not. Oh my gosh, my mom just texted, she's gonna be here in 15 minutes. Okay, I'm glad, whatever. I'm saying.
Yeah, I want.
All night, but it's nice to know and you're happy to know it's 15 minutes. So it's like some communication can be helpful, but there are sort of.
Even if it's just like have a plan with your kids. If you are dismissed after a lockdown, tell are you gonna pick them up or should they plan for bus? Like something to give them some idea.
Josh?
Yeah, I think just to put 2 cents on the crisis thing, I mean, great job. Everyone say it, and a great job. Happy that it all worked out. Certainly that's a hoax. But it's also nice to test our protocols, right? So there's a little bit of, certainly unexpected test, but that's when you actually find out whether you're prepared or not, right? So credit to the reviews that you guys are doing and the work of staff, students, everyone involved. But I just sing your praises there. With regard to the goals, like these objectives, right? I think this is why the administrative team has objectives, right? And I think it's great that you're sharing with us the goals that you have for the year and the objectives. It would be my preference, as the board member, is to just have very overarching goals. And I'll give you an example, right? A goal that I would want, and I just kind of wrote it here, is that 80% of K-8 students are reading at or above grade level as assessed by a dedicated criterion referenced assessment. That, to me, that's the goal. How it's implemented, how it's achieved, everything else is to the admin. I would like to discuss this several times throughout the year. What progress are we making towards it? Like, that's an example to me of a goal. It's overarching. It's wide. There's a lot to it. I want to stay out of all the minutia. That's why we have admin and teachers, but that's what I'd like to see or do. So that's an example of when I talk about goals. I think these are specific and it's great to be shared and it's great to be just made aware of them. I think that's wonderful. But when I think of a board goal, to me, that's a board goal.
Well, that's on here. It says 75. You wanted to just change it to 80?
I'll restate 80% of kindergarten through 8th grade students are reading at or above grade level as assessed by a dedicated criterion reference assessment. That's not like what's written on the Pathways to Success. And the reason why I say that, I mean, I won't go into great detail, but the bottom line is if we can achieve 80% reading on grade level, like pathways into high school become accessible for all students, right? You know, I don't know a single tradesman that doesn't want students who can read well. I don't know a single tradesman who doesn't want students to be able to understand numeracy and to understand numbers well. Like that.
Sorry.
Oh, good.
Do you think it's possible in 1 year to get 80% of all those kids reading on grade level?
You know, it's a great question. And, you know, we could say, okay, if we don't want 1 year, then what is our 1 year? Or say, you know what? In 3 years, so there'd be like 25 by 25, 27. This is what we want. And we agree as a board that this is going to be our 3-year goal that we're watching over this and knowing that that's what we're moving towards. And, you know, I think it helps, you know, us make financial decisions and all those things. So again, I wanted to put an example of, you know, my goal, right? As a board member, I wanted to be able to share, that would be an example of my goal.
So you're saying not using these and doing something different?
My preference would not be to adopt these as a school board because these are administrative goals that they're working on as an administrative team. And I like being notified how we're making incremental progress in that regard. But as a board, I think we need a more overarching goal.
I think we need to vote because it seems like we gave them one direction like a month ago and now we're changing direction and I don't know what other people feel.
So back to board norms with timely, but where we don't all have the first set of goals in front of us, I think that we should do as we just said and not actually continue this discussion until we have all of them in front of us. We can have a legit conversation, a well-informed.
Right, and I'd like to finish this one. I wasn't thinking, I had one more question for you, AJ. And it's, so this room, for instance, I think about a parent, my kids at a certain age have a cell phone, and part of it is most certainly, if there's a school shooting, I want that phone accessible to that student. And they're like this room, I can't get a call out of this room. I can't get a call out of the library. Is that intentional to keep kids up? No. Can we, I mean, that's concerning to me. If I had a class in this room and something was happening, I would have there was a phone last time we were in here on that back table, but there isn't. There would be no communication.
There's a phone right here.
Is it? Okay.
Are you able to access like I guess I'm thinking cell phone versus, but like the guest Wi-Fi? There's a lot of.
Yeah, but I still, you can get messages in and out. I cannot on my iPhone. I had to go out into the hallway to do it. I just texted you, said, think it depends on your person. That's funny. Yeah.
It might.
But our building is incredibly difficult. Like what I'm told is the amount of brick makes it really, really hard in the building. So yes, and I would even say students have more workarounds to get their messages out than I have. So like, I'm always of the mind, like, okay, if I can get a text to send, they can absolutely. You know, so, but no, that's definitely, but check out maybe the guest Wi-Fi and see. You know, the other nice part is, and again, I'm not proficient with this, but all of our students with being one-to-one with teachers. There are also ways that they can get messages out. And again, none of it convenient, but obviously in situations not
Right. So my main concern is really just in that emergency situation, can there be a connection between a parent potentially and a student in the building?
Yeah.
So,
And I think, certainly I would say like through the computer, through like
Right.
texting apps and sites on there, absolutely.
John, you can do that?
Most of them with their.
Yeah, and we, text me.
No, that is a common adult problem at Noble Heights.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
So what is everyone's feeling? Do you want them to put these all together in like one document and we discuss next time?
That's,
Yes. Or not?
that's
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
thumbs up.
Just that your thumb or?
It's a question. I have a question.
What?
I mean, would be thumbs down, but a question. So would you like me to share my goals as well? Or is this like, I feel, right? I'm feeling admin sharing goals and we're just gonna get so far that we're like, well, we've done all this work. Why don't we just approve it? But we never asked board members for their goals. And I'd like for that to be part of the process too, as per policy.
There, because when we started this process, Audra asked, how do you want to approach this? And she said she was gonna go take them 2 or 3 at a time and put stuff together for us to look at. So they did what we asked them to do. If you want to do your own goals for that night, fine.
Would you like me to share them with you? Is that?
Oh, you have them all done?
I'd like to see the
I want to see the
finished product.
Yeah, me too.
And then
See how they relate.
add that to it.
Yeah.
I don't think,
I don't have to add it to it. It can be
Or whatever.
side by side or something. I don't know.
right, that's right, side by side, but we have to have we have to have the revised ones to see, I think.
That,
I didn't mean add it to their goals, I meant add it to
Okay.
the discussion.
okay.
Yes, thank you. For the next meeting.
All right. Thank you. All right. Employment.
So we do have some employment updates. We have, these 2 retirements are upcoming for June of 2025. They just have submitted their, retirement letters ahead of that. So Terry Nelson, Noble High School Math. She's been in the district for 37 years and a total of an education. So we do need a motion and a second on that.
I'll make a motion with regrets.
Second.
We have some. Yeah. All those in favor?
Okay. And then we have Sharon Taylor, who is our district librarian. She's been with us for 10 years and in education for 28 years.
Same thing. I'll make a motion with regrets.
And thank you, and I'll second.
All those in favor?
And the next one is that we have a resignation of Abby Hubble, who is our school nutrition director. And that we have a little bit of flexibility with end date. So we're looking at the end of November, but could go a little longer into December. So Abby submitted her resignation. So we did post the posting just because we had a short period of time. So we did that. So I can talk a little bit about that. I'll talk a bit through that, but then we'll need a motion. So we posted and we had an interview committee do a first round of interviews. And so now we're holding because you need to officially approve that resignation. And then moving ahead, once you approve that, we'll be able to move into a second round of interviews, which again, because it's an administrative position, board members will be invited to sit in on that piece.
Can you discuss why the resignation occurred, or is that?
I can give you general senses. So if you recall, Abby was out for most of the summer for a leave of absence, having a baby. So decisions were made based on family.
We're sad, but we love her.
It's okay.
For her.
Yeah. So we need a motion then.
Yes, we do, please.
I'll make a motion to.
I'll second.
Second down there. All those in favor? Okay. That it? I think that's it.
Minute update. Okay. There's quite a few here, so it's getting late, so I'll go through a few things. So we have our, hopefully you received our district newsletter that had a lot of information in it. It went out Sunday. I'll just hit a few highlights of that. The patriotic concert is November 14th at 7 PM at Noble High School. We do that annually. The Little Mermaid play is going on tonight through Sunday, which is why it was busy in the parking lot today. Our Noble Adult Ed is hosting a children's author, Bruce McMillan, again on November 14th from 6 to 7. So if you really want to make a night of it, you can go to the patriotic concert. Well, you could do the author first and then the patriotic concert.
Or you can double yourself and go over to the Sanford thing
Yes,
where we're
yes.
we're asked to, the board
Right.
to come. So
Right.
it's a busy
Exactly.
night. Yeah.
And then just, we had our first annual Knights Unite to support the backpack program. And that was something that was organized by the field hockey boosters. And it was a whole athletic department piece. So they had received $400 in donations and 2 truck worths of food. So that was really great. So that was a really nice first annual, and hopefully there will be a second annual moving ahead. We had 31 students accepted into the District 1 Music Festival, which will be in January. 31.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And 3 students for the Maine Jazz All-State. So that was good. And then we have football. Tomorrow evening, we have their 3rd seeded in Class A, and they go to the semifinal game evening.
At Bonnie Eagle.
That's awesome.
Our esports team, they're in the Rocket League and Super Smash this year, and they will look to make another state championship.
So crazy. That's
by the end of the
awesome.
month. So that's coming up. Cassidy OD qualified for the girls' state championship in cross country. Our field hockey team finished their season missing the playoffs by 1 spot. The girls' soccer team also by 1 spot. They missed the playoffs. The boys also soccer by 1 spot. And the golf, let's see, they ended their season in the beginning of October. They completed well during the regular season, but fell a few strokes short of qualifying. I want to see if I missed anything. Volleyball. So this is our 2nd year of volleyball, and they made the playoffs for the first time and traveled to Hamden Academy for the first round. And that was where it ended. There was a question about the enrichment program, so the enrichment schedule. So I've got the enrichment schedule for those who would like to see it. Again, these are the positions, the specialist positions that we discussed last year and asked to have them, sorry. Specialists go to some of the schools during their time to work. So this is basically the schedule, and as you look at this, you can see that Lebanon, Knowlton, all the schools are represented. They're represented a little differently. We tried to focus on the upper elementary of 4 and 5, and then the lower elementary as well. And then these are enrichment, the total time for the year. That was another question about how many minutes was it impacting.
Oh, I'm not seeing that.
And again, this is by year. So as you look at this last sheet.
Audrey, can you talk a little bit about the enrichment total time? So what do the minutes mean exactly?
Per year. So that's how many minutes per year that's taking away from academics.
Per student, per
Yeah.
And what academic time are they missing exactly?
We didn't dig that. I didn't ask to dig that deeply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I would argue, I mean, this includes world language is academic.
Right.
Um,
And And so, and the activities, for example, like in kindergarten, they're making puppets to go along with the stories that they're writing. So we're really trying to work, like, our, Kate Johnson, who's doing the art enrichment. She's doing image making and picturing and writing, and that's a whole process of doing some illustrations. And then from that piece, you work on poetry. So there's academic tie-in to those pieces. And then they're doing some world culture things and world language pieces. So we're really trying to make it as tight to the curriculum as possible. Our PE teachers doing a lot of getting your brain ready for learning. What does that look like? Some of those exercises. So like I said, we're really trying to put a focus on that being not a one-off, but being an integration into the academic piece. The third question was, how to measure the success of this, or how can we, how to measure the success or the growth that we've seen. And I think the question back from administration was, we need a little more information about what the board is looking for before we can delve into how to measure that. So I think that's the question. So I don't have that answered because that's the question.
I think we all need to, sorry. Come on. I think we need to look at resources that are already out there for that information for ourselves. You know what I mean? I know it would take years, I'm sure, to study the effect of these programs on our own students, but there are already people out there studying that. So, I don't know if that's something our school district is
I don't know, maybe
capable of.
teachers, that's what I was gonna say.
Level of involvement, I don't know.
I think a combination of that, I think Alice, what you're saying, Allison, is there's data out there to show the impact of these things, but then to combine that with what are the teachers seeing and how do they feel about the benefits that students get from this?
I don't know if that helps, but
Yes, that gives us some anecdotal information that would help with some of that.
I would love to see them learning a language in like first grade. That would be great.
Definitely.
We want to make sure that we read it before we move on.
Second grade. So we have to kind of stretch it out a little bit.
Oh, there's a hand down here.
Thanks. So, one of the things I'm just trying to learn, when I look at the enrichment total time, I see, STEAM, 60 minutes, kindergarten. When I look on this list, I don't see any work with kindergarten. So I'm trying to figure out how the two forms interact with one another. And am I misunderstanding something? Like I see kindergarten 360 minutes, but I don't see kindergarten here. Am I misinterpreting something?
I don't think so. I think it was inadvertently left off that list.
Oh.
So some schools are having different things in different places. Like, for example, kindergarten has STEAM at North Berwick, but Huzzy doesn't necessarily. Huzzy has other things that some of their specialists are already doing. Like more during recess time, they're having like some planned activities during recess time. But these are the biggest pieces. And if you want, we can go back and ask to revise that to get the.
I don't know that this there's enough information. I just want to make sure that I was understanding. So, thank you for clarifying that. And then I think, Ezra, I think the question for me, right, is we know what the expense was. We know budget season's coming up. How important, I think that's I hate to say that, right? But it's a reality of our role when it comes to budget is, hard for me to sit here and say, oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Gosh, for kids, what's not good for kids in an educational setting in a school? Hard to point that out, right? Because you have, number one, you have great people working with kids. All the employees of the district are great people. They're in this job because they love teaching. They love working with kids. We have a lot of programs, right, as well. And so when I think of evaluating it, I'm interested in, okay, so how do we as a school board evaluate this program when we compare it to other programs and making really difficult decisions? And so that's why I think if we're adding something, if we're adding any program, I think we need to put some forethought into saying, okay, if this is going to be a reoccurring expense all the time, then how do we evaluate its effect within our entire school system? And then in relationship to other things. So I think that it's not a matter of like, oh, hey, terrible, good, bad. It's a matter of saying, can we do all things? If we can't do all things, then how do we start making these decisions? And so that's where that question comes from.
Well, I don't believe we're adding anything. If you recall the whole budget process, we are taking what 2 towns got, or I don't even remember what, Northbrook was one of them. And we're giving that same opportunity to all of the elementary schools in the district. So we're not adding anything. We're making it more available to the other schools.
So I think I do understand what you're saying,
Thank you.
Josh. That's where the administrators have asked for further clarification or some ideas about how you would like them to proceed to provide you evaluative tools.
That's why I asked the question, because I don't think I personally know. I just think, when it comes to budgets, how do we say this is more important than other things? How do we make those decisions?
So I can go back and we can have that. We didn't dive deeply that way. We looked at, is there a measure that we could look at? But as far as the value on it, we can try to see, we can have that conversation.
That's a big challenge. I know.
This time we'll look for qualitative measurement rather than quantitative.
Right.
That's it from the superintendents.
For some reason, this hit switch. Same as it was on here.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I have other on my next list.
I have other. Hello. So I just want to talk about how I did go to the MSMA Fall Conference, and how I thought it was absolutely amazing. I got to play Name That Tune with Audra.
We did well.
Pretty well. We did well. And so I've been thinking about our board and about our dynamic as a board, and I've been doing a lot of research about the most effective boards out there. They all seem to have the commonality of group building events that are outside of these meetings, where it's more of a team building, that there's no pressure. We're not talking about school board, yada, yada. So I would love to see next year mandatory attendance to this conference from all members of the school board. And to add another element of fun, I would love to see the chair of our board assign one seminar to each member that they feel they would personally benefit the most from.
Good, because I won't be doing it.
It's great. Sounds great. So the built-in team building is like, okay, there's a brunch where we all get to sit around, talk. It's like no pressure. We're not planning this whole other special event. We're already all there. And then there's the same facilitated dinner. We'd be seeing the keynote speakers, learning about things we don't know yet. So yeah, just something I thought I would bring to the table and see if we all think that would be a good opportunity.
Can we all meet together?
Yeah.
Social situation and it not.
Yeah, as long as you don't discuss team, yeah.
I think just to support your board, a lot of people are working and do not have the opportunity to go to that conference. So that's the only problem. So I think it is a good conference, and they do provide some really great professional development, basically. So maybe some more things to think about, how else can we?
Well, I think
that's smart.
I think we should have some type of mandatory training, at least within our 3-year term. So maybe it's once in the 3 years, that a group goes.
Isn't there a Zoom meeting coming up with
The legislation.
the Maine School Board Association, that they're going to do a seminar on new board members?
Right, that's the one that's, the 14th in Sanford?
No.
There's that.
Tuesday.
This
It's
is a
Zoom
different
meeting
one.
on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, that's at night too. So maybe that should be like not strongly suggested.
But Nancy, I think what you were talking about is the series, I think there were 6 webinars.
Might be different.
Yeah.
You talking to this, Nancy?
Yeah,
Somebody.
to you.
No, Tuesday night, it's Zoom meeting from the.
Okay.
It's the same night as school conferences, so I have to be on both.
Right. On it, I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. If my thing was open, I'd tell you, because it'd be on my computer, but it's too hard to read it. I've given up.
I'll look it up.
Anybody else?
I have others. Most of, if not all, the elementary schools in the district currently have a cereal drive going right now, collecting cereal full-size boxes of cereal, for the backpack program. We have done it the last 2 years and have collected enough, the PTOs are organizing it, have collected enough cereal for all kiddos involved with the backpack program to go home with a full-size box of cereal for all 3 breaks. So that is going on right now. To the next few weeks, I don't know the end date off the top of my head. And then also, I was at the North Berwick Elementary out for pollers to see. I don't know how many did, so I just want to extend the invitation that they're doing a Veterans Day show at 2:00 tomorrow at North Berwick Elementary that the public is invited to. So if you know a veteran, they're showing their appreciation tomorrow at the elementary school.
What time is it? 2. Awesome.
Anybody else? Okay. Public input. We have anyone who would like to speak?
What is this?
Works North. First thing, a little bit about the conversations that we're having about like the best things for parents, coming from my job, what I do during the day. It's called a SWOT, SWOT, not SWAT, not what was here. I think doing that for parents, kind of touching on like Allison had talked about, like, what are the best practices of, I don't, as much as I think we'd all like to have them like no phone, I don't think it's realistic, but giving parents an idea of like, hey, this is an appropriate message, this is not, try to keep this. We know that we know that everyone's worried, giving that kind of back and giving that feedback sooner than later while it's still fresh in everyone's mind about what worked well, what didn't work well, and how we can all work out like the examples of like, hey, parents, it might not be the most helpful idea to have everyone lined up because police can't come, like law enforcement can't come in, fire can't come in, transportation can't come in. If we could have, like we'll line up on this road to keep this one open, that sort of stuff, just to give feedback on that. Second thing is transportation. The talks that we had about specifically around athletics. Talked to someone that was a coach, and he had told me that when he inquired about it, that coaches are not currently allowed to drive due to the contracts. And I'm not sure if this is getting into too much, but that may be something to think about especially given the situation that everyone's in right now, not just Noble, but the entire state, if not more, being a bit, somehow having more flexibility of allowing coaches to drive or other people to drive that are not part of the union, or somehow have a avenue for allowing them to be in the union to satisfy. I understand the union's point of view of it, but also given the amount of spend that we have for the transportation right now and how quickly we've been going through, I think it's in everyone's best interest to come up with some better ways to spend that money and not just going out and, hey, we have to charter this because of XYZ. So, thank you.
Thank you. Got another hand up.
I'm out of district, so I just wanted to wait till the end and see if you would allow me to speak for a couple of minutes on what I had seen during the meeting. Just wanted to toss about there where I'm at.
Can you be quick? Because we still have, some of us have been here 4.5 hours already. Yeah.
I'm Jeff Minahan. I'm a resident of South Berwick. And I just wanted to, I've come to a couple of these meetings in the past, and I just wanted to say, really a great job for the work that you're doing. Being an elected official myself, I know what it takes. I know what goes into it, and the stuff as you're going through it all, what's running through your mind about your constituents and what your own passions are as well. So I just want to say that, and I really appreciate the work you're doing. And these, more importantly, number 7, I would encourage all of you guys to go back and watch tonight's number 7 conversation, because I see in myself how I work in my own board. Stuff like you guys are saying, you seem like you pedal real fast and people don't necessarily catch up to you a little bit, right? And it's like, go, go, go. And then, Nancy, like you would, it seemed like there was this issue where you were asking questions. I've done the same thing. And it's like, oh crap, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal, you know? But then at the same point, down at the end where you brought up number 7, I feel like that whole scenario proved exactly what the point was. And I just would encourage you guys all to go back, look at that whole scenario, step out of that for a minute, because it is personal to you guys. I don't know the scenarios. So I would encourage you guys to go look at that scenario, the issue that was brought up, and watch how that played through live. That's why I'm standing up, because you guys have a lot of great potential. You have a lot of people, holy mackerel, you have to work with conversing with yourselves, let alone worry about parents, students, and all that. So I think you guys could look at that and see, oh, maybe I could have done something a little different, approach that a little different. And you guys as a board, I think will grow tremendously for your community. So that's all I wanted to say. I just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Any other public input? Okay, so now we're going to do executive sessions, correct? Yes.
Can we have a quick bathroom
Who brought
break?
coffee?
Yeah.
No meeting.
So we're gonna, we can stay here.
We can stay here.
We're gonna kick you all out. No more public business will be
Yes,
done.
no more decision.
And
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your being.